what is called knitting bitch or stitching bitch in the knitting world, the knitting community, where you just get together with another girlfriend or a guy friend, because a lot more guys are knitting now too, which is wonderful. You get together with a friend or a group of friends, and you talk and you knit, and it's very simple. So she was my knitting bitch buddy, because I never went to any of these groups and stuff, because again, like, I'm not a group person. I don't tend to fit in with groups. It's very, very hard for me to relate to people. It's incredibly hard for me to relate to people. And now that I'm telling you about my story, I think you can see how it's been difficult for me. So we were very connected in a bevy of ways. And she was very accepting of me, and I was very accepting of her. And then, what the only negative that I found with this person is that, not that she was an activist, because she is, it was the mentality of being, and I say this in no way to disrespect the person or to send out anything negative to the person. But it was too much. Anger, like I've said before, is a fascinating, amazing tool. But when it becomes rage, when it becomes hate, this is when we start to use our own tools against us. It's like stabbing yourself in the gut with your own wrench. Not a good, well, maybe I should say screwdriver. Wrench would be kind of hard, wouldn't it? Smacking yourself over the head with your own wrench, or stabbing yourself in the gut with your own screwdriver. Not a good idea. These are tools. You use them to make things different, to improve things, to grow, to build things, to, to change things. So, I find anger, I find even sadness, and in very, very, very small increment doses, fear to be very, very important, because sometimes it's a tiny bit of fear that brings our anger and brings our strength in. And sometimes it's that little bit of fear that makes our light just go bam and just explode, into a rainbow of awesomeness. So I found that was starting to get to be too much for me, that there was too much of a focus with this person on hating the elite, or hating the people any of the people who have been controlling us or have been trying to control us. And we always kind of butted heads on that, because I'm more of the person that I'm a pacifist. There's a label. I hate labels, but I'm what is considered a pacifist for the most part, where I think that peaceful protest is the best way, or just non-compliance. Taking yourself out of the system instead of trying to force the system to do something different for you or to change for you. Just take yourself out of the system. That seems so much more important to me. And because we are living in a time where we do have two paradigms living side by side, we do have the old world order who is trying to create the new world order, the Illuminati, the Freemasonry, all these guys who have been controlling us for perhaps thousands and thousands of years. And whoever is behind them, if you ever look into David Icke's work, he talks a lot about reptilians and our connection to extraterrestrials, of course. And our connections with extraterrestrials, I can tell you, run very, very deep and are very, very ancient. But he, based on my own experience alone also, he talks a lot about how reptilians control the global elite, and then the global elite in turn control us, so that the Illuminati are actually puppets for somebody else. This is very possible, of course, because, human beings haven't been us kind of people. I don't believe in Darwinism. I don't believe in any of that crap, or creationism or whatever else. But at the end of the day, it's a theory, But so I don't put stock into it. But we haven't been around for very long, But who was here before us, kind of thing, And that's, again, that's a topic for another, because that is a huge topic. So when it came down to it, basically, she was very unaccepting that I wanted to be more peaceful, and I just wanted to create love for people. And she was a very loving person. She is a very loving person. So that in her wanting to be more aggressive in no way, connotates that she's not loving. In the end, it basically came down to that we I don't know, we're very compatible, but at the same time, there were little things that were really bugging her about me, because I am not very politically correct. I think when we are being politically correct, we're just wasting our time not telling the truth. And I think there's a big difference between being truthful and not worrying so much about being PC, as opposed to being extremely offensive and very outright. It's like, obviously we have very offensive words for people, and obviously just walking up to a black person and saying, is very offensive. We know that. But there are certain instances where we shouldn't be so sensitive with each other. That's what I think. Because we are what we are, and noticing and noting our differences, I think is really, is actually a really beautiful thing. And as an aside, I think a really great comic, I believe his name is Russell Simmons, and he knocks on Indian, on Chinese, on white people, on black people. He knocks on everybody, and I love that. I absolutely love that, because how many times as a Canadian, if you're a Canadian listening to this, how many times have you heard an American or anybody else, listing, reading the laundry list of like what Canadians are like? We all blubber. We say A all the time, and I do say A. Oh God, what? It's always snowing here. We go to work on our snowshoes. Some people actually believe this about us, but it's not something that offends me. It's something that I think is really hilarious. That our differences really are really quite beautiful, and we should talk about them. We shouldn't be afraid to point out the fact, like if you have an Asian friend, a Japanese friend, you shouldn't be afraid to ask questions about Japanese culture, or to ask questions about anything having to do with being Asian, and even the differences between you being a white person, if you are, and that person being an Asian person, and how interesting that is that you're so different, because it seems that we've come from different places. And again, this gets back into extraterrestrial stuff. So I will keep it for some other time, maybe not next time, but so where are we at? So with this person, this relationship basically kaboomed, and we've gone our separate ways. But what is interesting for me is during that learning experience, I really learned something important, because I was getting into the place where I was not accepting people, where I found myself being very judgmental, and I don't want to be that person. And I found that her energy rubbed off on me in that sense. That I believe she was always trying to be not very judgmental, but certain things would be kind of judgmental, the way that I read them. So what I actually learned, because at that point, because of that influence and that energy rubbing off on me, I was starting to get more anti this, anti that, anti the other thing. And I still am, in a sense. I am against government. I am against religion. I am against the doctor and the industry and the de-education system. These are not things I'm happy with. And these are things that I believe we all need to change. And I know that there is a bevy of you out there, millions upon millions of people, who see the ridiculousness within our society and would prefer to create community. And as an aside, I tend to break down the two words into society, meaning societal propriety, meaning that we have to own everything and we have to tell everybody about it so that our status is then lifted, so that we are better than somebody else. I have a boat and you don't. I'm better. So I don't have a boat, by the way. It's just an example. And community is communication and unity. Now, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to kind of figure out, okay, I would kind of prefer Me personally, I would much prefer to be within a community than within society. And that's why I say to you, create in your own little community, your house, your friends, your circle of friends, your neighborhood, whatever. Create the love and the awareness, and the acceptance, since we're talking about that today, and the acceptance and the respect and the understanding. So because of hanging with this person really opened up my mind, and taught me a lot of things I actually didn't know, and also helped to fuel my own passions, my own fires for certain things that I'm very passionate about, and giving me more information on certain things. But at the same time, it also awakened the rage within me, and that for me is very, very not a positive thing. So I would find that I was starting to get a lot more cynical about many things. I was starting to find it seriously, a very tiny bit. It literally was a very tiny bit, but it was enough for me to notice it. Harder for me to laugh at stuff, to just laugh. And more than anything, I find when you're laughing, you're letting go of stuff. And it was harder and harder for me to let go of stuff. I was hanging on for dear life to certain things. And this relationship only lasted like 8, 9, 10 months. But I was very close with this person. I considered her my best friend, my closest friend. I told her everything, absolutely everything. So when this relationship exploded, it was awful for me at first. And then I started to reflect back, and thinking about, what did I get positively out of this relationship, and what did I acquire negatively from this relationship? And what I found was that I was becoming more anti this, anti that, anti everything under the freaking sun. So I thought, okay, I don't need to do that. And I was actually a few weeks ago, because it was literally a couple weeks ago, like 2 or 3 weeks ago, where I really started to realize that what I had learned and what I had taken away from the relationship. And I was out for lunch with my friend BB. Hi, BB. I love you. Amazing person, like ridiculous. She brings her light to the party. This person, she's a rainbow. She's incredible. And a fellow Pisces. So, we were talking a bit about this dissolving of a relationship with my girlfriend. And so I was explaining to her, it really made me take away, I was starting to become anti everything. And why do I need to be anti anything? Why can't I just be pro stuff? Why can't I just, instead of being anti religion, why not be pro freedom of thought? Or instead of being anti government, why not be, pro-freedom or pro-self-governing, or self-governance. And I'm paraphrasing her, but her reaction was basically in her glowing positive way was just, why do you need to be anti or pro anything? Why can't you just be? And that has really stuck with me, because that is such an incredible lesson for her to teach me. Why not just be, and so I'm trying that. I've been trying that since she said that. I've been trying very hard to be a lot more neutral. And yes, I do have very strong opinions, very strong passions, but to find the neutrality a little bit, because at the end of the day, if you're looking at this from a physical perspective, this is all so real. Shit be real up in here. You know what I mean? Like it's crazy, the world. But if you look at it from a very spiritual perspective, if you read things from your spirit side, you'll see that none of this is real. That it is all a hologram. And many people talk about the holographic universe, and this is so absolutely true. Everything that we say and do creates an energy signature, and it goes out and it creates this universe. This universe really is a hologram of our own mental creating. Do you realize how powerful you are? I have to put that in every freaking show, because you are this incredible spirit being who can accomplish absolutely anything that you set your mind to, whether that be something spiritual like levitation or astral travel or changing the universe, or whether it be something physical, like actually going out and getting that career that you really, 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 really love, or even, even if you really, really want it, you really want to get that brand new car, you can manifest these things. And I think I do agree with Freeman's perspective, the Freeman perspective.blogspot.com. I do agree with his perspective in the sense of The Secret being a little more